background Julie Brown.
Wubba, wubba, wubba. Also singer-songwriter Lisa Loeb. You're probably going to get up and dance. You might even make up some fake lyrics.
90s on 9.
All that.
Bag of chips not included.
Channel 9 and the all-new Sirius XM app.
To listen to 90s on 9, activate your subscription now by calling 844-711-8800 or head over to SiriusXM.com to sign up quickly.
Looking for a unique point of view on pro sports game analysis? Then tune in to Big C Sports Podcast on iHeartRadio. Get real sports talk worldwide. Miss a live episode? Replay it on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Join Big C, former NFL player and longtime award-winning radio broadcaster, covering all sports including NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, NCAA, USL, and more. Tune in live or on demand on iHeartRadio Podcast today.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. You gotta get this. You gotta get this.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you, as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Veni Veni Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me, and people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Want to be my neighbor. Shut up, boo! It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting ready for the vice presidential debate, and I need some sleep. Well, if you need sleep, wait till the debate comes on, if that makes sense. All's fair, level where I want to say, what a beautiful day in Denver Hills, California, on a beautiful Monday, September 30th, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard in the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sent you where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord didn't split you too wide. If you want a wider split, keep going to those fast food eateries. I guarantee you can get a wider split if you go to those fast food eateries. I've tried it myself. I want to sing Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo. You know, that's my Buddhist chant to close out the beautiful month of September, my birthday month. And I've been told that one of the most significant attributes of Nichiren Buddhism is its easily accessible practice of chanting Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo. It's a profound and provocative yet simple method of Buddhist practice. It's the perfect Buddhist teaching for the modern world. And I really believe in chanting and praying. In fact, practice is one of the 3 pillars of Nichiren Buddhism, the others being faith and study, to which we can bring forth an innate Buddhahood. All's fair and level word. Practice entails 2 aspects: a practice for oneself and practice for others. And when you start chanting, may lightning strike, Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo. I'm telling you, a lot of good things start to happen in life Maybe things were happening before I started chanting in life, I gotta say that. But also, it's just another add that I've been adding to my daily routine of chanting and praying and giving God praise. I want to say, for Big C Sports Podcast, what a weekend of football. We had some games at the Coliseum in Southern California. USC coming back and beating Wisconsin in a big way. The first Big Ten victory for the USC Trojans. It sounds so weird to say the USC's first Big Ten victory as a conference team for the USC Trojans. It doesn't make any sense, but all's fair and never work. And then the big game down at Tuscaloosa, Alabama, with the good old boys from Georgia, from Stone Mountain, Georgia. They were beaten up by the Alabama Crimson Tide, and then they came back and they pulled a rabbit out of their tailpipe. Or maybe they pulled a dog out of their tailpipe, if that makes sense to you. And then the Elephants, Elephants don't forget. And then Milrose, maybe he won the Heisman Trophy for Alabama that night. Almost 500 yards total offense by one man. He's like Lamar Jackson. He was playing so great. And then what a great game for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Also, Michigan got a close win over Minnesota. There's so many great football games out there to be played. Oklahoma got a win over Auburn. And then Oregon knocked off UCLA. Ironically, Oregon knocks off UCLA in the Rose Bowl, and both teams are now in the Big Ten Conference. It just doesn't make any sense. Pac-12, are y'all your Vulcan mind? I guess they are out of their Vulcan mind like Spock in Star Trek. But things change, and then NFL football had some great games over the weekend. Jalen Daniels, that good old boy, is doing his thing for the Washington Commanders. Has the best passer rating for the first 4 games in the history of an NFL quarterback. Isn't that something? He played at Arizona State, and then he transferred over to LSU before being drafted first round by the Washington Commanders, Heisman Trophy winner. I'm telling you, there's so many great things that happen in football. The 49ers got their chest in the wind. They got their groove back. They say Stella got a groove back, so they got that done. And then, how about those Cowboys? The Cowboys knocked off the New York City Giants in New York. And then the Jets, they could not beat the Broncos because somebody couldn't kick a field goal. Couldn't kick a field goal. All's fair and never work. Life is what it is. And then Tampa Bay, they knocked out the Eagles again. They did it last year, and they did it again. So I guess a Pirate, it can beat an Eagle. Those Pirates don't play fair. But those Pirates, they're a different breed of Pirates. All's fair and level work. And guess what's back? I'm back. Runners on first and third. They count for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. Left field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball. And men love to hit deep. Got some Big C's Major League Baseball playoffs. They're swinging the bat. And you let them off the hook. You got to let them off the hook, but you don't want to let them off the hook when they're swinging the bat. I really love what's going on in the world of sports. NBA basketball media days right around the corner. People are reporting in for media day. In fact, preseason starts on October the 4th. Regular season tips off on October 22nd. Big C Sports will be there. May let this strike. I love saying those things. I'm so happy about this time of year. And not only that, we have to talk about reparations. Tavis Smiley talking about reparations with the great Chris Lodgson with CJAC Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. And people know that right now Gavin Newsom is two-faced. He wears 2 faces. I mean, he's a lot like Governor Wallace when he said no reparations now, no reparations forever. But then that good old boy signed an apology without signing reparations. He turned down Senate Bill 1050, eminent domain, wouldn't allow it to be brought up Senate Bills 1331 and 1403 that would have funded reparations, and it created a genealogy for reparations. But then that good old boy signs an apology, and you had some African Americans giving him praise for robbing our ancestry when he had the power of the pen in his hand to say, I'm not going to be like Governor Wallace, to do the right thing. But we were chucking a job, and we fell for the banana in the tailpipe. I didn't fall for the banana in the tailpipe, but our people, some of our people from the Legislative Black Caucus, they fell for the banana in the tailpipe. But they know somebody gave them some money and told them, shut up! And then clap for me as I tell you I'm giving you nothing. If someone stole your bicycle, you go down in that school and try to report lost and found. If someone broke into your car, you call Lawrence to say, I've been robbed, and you want to get what belongs to you. But they want the white people to keep everything. All the land, the free labor, the compound interest from the free labor, all the equity built up from the free labor. Not only that, look at P. Diddy, what he's going through, whether he's guilty or innocent. He has a due process. But no one can deny that we had lynchings, rapes, murders, kidnapping, men, women, and children sold from white slave owner to white slave owner. And California was complicit. When slaves would run away, California, they returned them to the draconian slave owners. In the land that says, in God we trust. And California knows it's complicit in slavery. But you can only hear so much of Big C doing my thing. I'm going to play something. You can hear with your own eyes and ears. Tavis Smiley. Great talk show host. Been doing this thing decades, many decades. And Chris Lodgson with the CJAC, Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. See, it's not just Big C Sports. I've been doing this for 5 years now, Reparations. But I'm gonna play that before we get into some sports, because so many of us, if we get our athletes to do what Tavis Smiley's doing, to do what Big C's doing, to do what Chris Lodgson is doing, to do what Double O is doing, to do what Aleem Shabazz is doing, to do Tony Pierce what he's doing, to do what a lot of good people are doing, from sea to shining sea. California Senator Stephen Bradford, which should be the governor of California, because he has real character. Real character. Gavin Newsom, what a joke. So disappointed in him. And black folks supported his butt when they were trying to recall him in California. I mean, it just makes me upset. I don't want to be upset. I just want to say, what a joke. You got to find out when somebody, at least Governor Wallace told you, he says segregation now, segregation forever. But Gavin Newsom, he's two-faced. He smiles in your face and then slaps you. And some of those African Americans stood up and they gave him applause. Thanks for slapping me in my ancestry. All we wanted was the Just Act. What's the Just Act, Big C? The Just Act is the United States Department of Labor and the German government made sure that descendants of Holocaust got their reparations. Japanese internment camps, California made sure that Japanese Americans got their reparations for being interned. And they still want to study what African Americans get. That's a crock. That's a crock of shit! Excuse me, the allergy's been kicking my butt sometimes. Can you believe what he did? Gavin Newsom and some people, they should have boycotted the press conference. What a joke that was. They don't do that to descendants of Holocaust. They don't do that to Native Americans. Even got foreigners coming here getting aid and housing grants and free health care, free everything. African Americans, they say, well, we need to study some more. Remember that when it's time to vote. Remember that when it's time to vote. I wanna tell you something. Life is so important. I'm gonna get into sports too, but I'm gonna play something that's important to me, and it should be important to you. The best speaker in the history of this country on reparations.
Days ago, about handouts and how these right-wing memes, these Republican memes, have infiltrated the Democratic debate to suggest that, ending welfare as we know it, all those kind of things are somehow, great and noble things, when we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is that there's no economic opportunity there because of insane trade policies and because of Reaganomics. And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
Listen up, Gavin Newsom.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America. And it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, you know, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the complete, and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. You know, it's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
Ancestors and identity. Until now, there has been a common belief that all African Americans are descendants of African slaves brought through the transatlantic slave trade. It was believed that they were outsiders who came from Africa and that their ancestors were slaves with no identity other than this. But now, the hidden and erased part of history tells that the ancestors of African Americans were native to America compared to the majority of the white population of America today, which are the actual outsiders coming from Europe. So, what evidence shows African Americans are descendants of the Aborigines of America? In this video, let's know about this.
I want you to hear a conversation for reparations now, and what California Governor Gavin Newsom did after mandating a task force. A Caucasian man organized and mandated a task force with Secretary of the State and Dr. Shirley Weber, African-American woman. And then he vetoed the bills, but he signed an apology. What are you apologizing for if you don't pass reparations? Listen to Tavis Smiley talk with Chris Lodgson, a coalition for a just and equitable in California.
We will speak with the executive director and conductor of the Inner City Youth Orchestra of L.A., Charles Dickerson, about this amazing piece of work called Kamala Stands for Us. You have to hear it and play the taste of it at the top of today's show. We'll play the composition for you in its entirety on the B side of this hour and talk with Charles Dickerson about this new musical composition called Kamala Stands for Us. Well, we commenced this hour, as promised, with lead organizer for the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, Chris Lodgson, who shares his reactions to California Governor Gavin Newsom's formal apology last week for slavery. It made all kinds of news, national news, international news, that the governor of California went on the record formally apologizing for slavery on the one hand, but with his other hand, he vetoed reparations legislation. I'm laughing, but it ain't funny. Chris Lodgson, how are you today, my friend?
Good morning, sir. I am doing well. I am blessed, brother. How are you?
Man, if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. Good to have you back on the program. Let me jump right in and make the most of our time. As I said a moment ago, I was laughing, but it wasn't funny, and this would, in fact, be laughable if it weren't so serious. So out of one side of his mouth, he says one thing. With one hand, he does one thing. With another hand, he does something else. For those who just need to hear the story, before we get into opining about it, tell me what happened last week. Give me the facts first, what happened, then we'll offer our opinions about it.
Yes, so last week we had, first, in the middle of the week, Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed Senate Bill 1050, which was a restitution and compensation bill that would have provided restitution and compensation for black residents whose ancestors were enslaved in this country, who had their property taken from them by the state of California through things like eminent domain and other state-sanctioned property takings. And the governor vetoed that bill in the middle of the week. and cited in his veto message that he couldn't sign that bill because it would not be able to be implemented without the agency that would have been created in another bill that he actually helped block the week or so before that. And so that's in the middle of the week. The governor vetoed Senate Bill 1050, causes all kinds of negative reaction online. And then the following days, he signs this apology bill, which is apologizing for California's role in enslavement and the things that came after enslavement. And this is all on the heels of what happened at the Capitol in the last 3 or so weeks, the last week of August, where the governor and the California Legislative Black Caucus helped block several reparations-related bills that were introduced and championed by Senator Stephen Bradford.
All right, so that's what happened. Now let's get into the fun part. Hearing your opinions about it, and I will unapologetically and unabashedly share mine as well. Let me just start with this. There is a photo that is circulating all over the internet, and you ain't got to look hard to find it. Just Google it. But there's a photo of many of these members of the California Legislative Black Caucus standing around the governor as he's signing this bill. This is not unusual. Whenever the governor of any state, or the president for that matter, signs a bill, all those persons who are interested, who are lucky enough to be invited to the signing ceremony, stand around behind the governor, behind the president, as he uses this pen, or she uses the pen, to sign the legislation. They've got this thing down to such a science these days where the president or the governor will use various pens to actually sign the legislation, and then they give those pens as gifts to the persons who were involved in advancing the legislation for passage and on to the governor for signage. So I say all that to just give you a backstory of how this stuff works. You've seen these photos 1,000 times. There's one circulating now of this meeting last week where the governor is signing this legislation and then apologizes for slavery. So you got all these Negroes who belong to the caucus standing behind the governor, and they're just grinning ear to ear. I'm looking at this photo of these Negroes grinning behind the governor, and I'm about to throw up. Because y'all are standing behind a guy who played y'all, who exploited y'all, who y'all were partners with in helping to kill these meaningful reparations bills. But you're standing there skinning and grinning like he's doing y'all a favor. Like there's something we ought to be happy about. So that's the one read. Yep. Because I can hold two thoughts in my head at the same time, here's the other read. And I've heard some of these members of the caucus actually say this, that this process has to begin with an apology. So that's their defense. We were standing there and we were skinning and grinning because at least he was signing legislation to apologize, and that is a start. You start with an apology. Now, those are my two thoughts as I saw this picture. Yeah. I'm looking at it, and I'm offended, quite frankly, by them standing there grinning. This is one of those things, if they're going to send it to the governor, he wants to sign it, let him sign it. But all of y'all standing around grinning like you done something Herculean, like you've done something amazing, is offensive because you didn't do nothing, number one. But then, again, I hear their argument that Tavis, it's got to begin. The process needs to begin at least with an apology. Mm-hmm. So those are the two frames. When we come forward, I can't even get it out. I'm foaming at the mouth now. I'm so upset. When we come forward, I'm going to calm down, and I'll let Chris Lodgson have his say about which of those frames is correct. You're listening to Tavis.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis.
Make a move.
The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later today.
So I'm
is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
So Chris, my board out Miles had not seen the photo, so he went aggressively, as people do these days, as I invited them to do, to just Google the photo so you can have an image of what Chris and I are talking about. So these Negroes, again, were exploited by the governor, willingly exploited, went along with this nonsense, did not put these bills on his desk as they should. The one that did get there by Steve Bradford, the governor vetoed. You laid that out earlier. I'll shut up in a second and let you have the rest of the time. So I'm looking at this photo that Miles has just pulled up, and I'm comparing and I'm contrasting these black folks standing behind the governor, who really did nothing, with all those black people standing behind Lyndon Johnson in the White House when he signed the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. When those Negroes left the White House, they had done something. This is seminal legislation. Voting rights, right. Civil rights. They're standing behind the president, LBJ, as he signs it. That's a big deal. They walked away with something. These black folk with Governor Newsom walk away with some pens, maybe. But I don't know if their dignity was intact when they walked away. And it just feels like a Jedi mind trick. And it feels like we're being gaslit. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I digress. Yeah. The microphone's all yours.
No, brother, I completely agree with you. It was gaslighting. We did feel gaslit. You could tell in the picture, and you notice that not all of the caucus members are there either.
That's right.
So there's some people that's missing, right? Senator Bradford's missing, I believe. One or two other folks are missing also. So it's not even the whole group of caucus members. And you are absolutely right, I think, to point to the contrast between what you saw folks doing with LBJ at that signing ceremony and what you just saw just last week. This was an opportunity to really put some meaningful, as you put it, consequential, substantive, real legislation before the voters of California and before the residents of California, and get the governor to make some decisions about it. Instead, the caucus members chose to do something else. Instead, they chose to block their own bills, in effect protecting Governor Gavin Newsom from having to actually make any decisions about whether or not he was supportive of reparations in reality, or was it just words. And this, to us, feels like just words. We don't need no more words. Our people are hurting. Our people are in bad shape, and we need action. We've said that the way you apologize is through your actions. So apologies with pen and paper don't put no food in nobody's mouth. They're not paying nobody's rent. Nobody's buying no groceries with no apologies. Nobody's coming home from prison who needs to be out of prison with no apologies. Nobody's coming off the streets who's unhoused with no apologies. We are well past the time of words. And to your point earlier about, the point that the caucus makes about, we need to start with an apology. No, you don't start with an apology. That is a very, very dangerous way to go forward. And here's why. So with the approach that they're taking with apologize and let's educate people first and let's talk about it first, what you do is, and I think this has already been proven true, what's happened is you've pissed off and you've made mad the people out in the community. So actually, what you've done is hurt your own community, because your community is looking at this and saying, why are we doing apologies? Why are we doing words? Where's the action? Right after you stop and veto the action and block bills that would have brought us closer to doing action. It's also a bad way to start because of this. So right now, California legislators can say, listen, I supported your apology bill. I supported your other bills that aren't really reparations, and that's as far as I want to go. So you've actually created a way for other legislators to let themselves off the hook and not have to support the things that come next too. So you've actually hurt our ability to actually do those other things, like put checks in people's pockets, like put free education and free housing in people's lives. You've actually hurt the effort. This is a step backwards, not a step forward.
Yeah. I want to correct both of us, Chris. It's not just words. We forgot about the plaque.
Right.
We didn't just get word. There is a plaque.
Right. You got a trophy.
Yeah. We're laughing because there's we're laughing because along with the signing, there is a plaque that's going to be installed inside the state capitol. So that's what Negroes get. Wow. We get some paper signed. The members got the members got some pens, some fountain pens, and we get a plaque on the wall in the Capitol. That's what Negroes get, a plaque. Okay. But exactly. But here's the I take all the points you just made. I think this does not. I think you're right. I think this does not make it easier to advance reparations. It makes it harder. Because now, again, people have an excuse, but we already apologized. Now you want to come back and ask for more. So I don't like the frame. Let me just say this. I was telling somebody this yesterday, and I'll get criticized for this. Won't be the first or last time, so frankly, I don't care. But I don't know who taught these Negroes how to play politics. Yeah. I just don't know who taught these members of the California Black Legislative Caucus how to do politics. You were smart enough and good enough, or enough people stayed home for you to get elected. The turnout ain't massive in the first place, so you got elected. Right. But do you know how to play politics? Yeah. I mean, this is not the way that Willie Brown would have run a ground game. I mean, there are others in this state who really understand how to play the political game. And I get the sense that all these folks are novices, but I know they're not novices because some of them have been there for years. But they just didn't play this game. I hate to call it a game, but that's what politics is. They didn't play it right. Their strategy for how to do this is so backwards. I don't quite.
They got played. They got played. I mean, they are the ones who had got played, and that is why we are where we are right now. Because instead of playing the game, you the one getting played, and that is again why we are where we are right now. You know, I mean, as you said before, and I've agreed with you. You know, we did feel very gaslit by this because this apology comes right the day after he vetoed a bill that would have put real restitution and compensation in people's lives to return people's property who had their property taken by the state, or to compensate them at the fair market value of their property. That was the bill that the governor vetoed the day before, and then to come the day after that and sign an apology bill with nothing in it, nothing. That is completely unacceptable.
Yeah. I'm also thinking about this, and this is one of those. I warn you, this is a tricky terrain that we're stepping into that could get you and me in trouble. So let's be careful here. But I also believe in being a truth teller. And here's the question: what other community in this country who has been wronged in the way that we have been would have merely accepted an apology?
Right.
Name one for me. Name one other community in this country who has endured remotely the hell that black folk have had to endure, who be standing around the governor, skinning and grinning as if something really just happened. Here's the point. When I said earlier, they don't know how to play politics respectfully. The better play would have been to accept the governor's apology, let him do what he's going to do, but don't show up for the signing ceremony. Yeah. That makes a stronger statement. He can still apologize. He can still sign it. Y'all Negroes ain't got to be there, standing around and smiling like something really just went down. That's the stronger play. That's the stronger statement. You don't show up. Your turn, Chris.
Yeah. Don't reward him. I mean, because that's what you just did. You just rewarded him. You said, okay, you could block our bills, you could veto our bills, you could lean on us, we're going to bend over and do what you say, and then we're going to reward you with a photo op, with stories in the New York Times and this paper and international news showing you how, so we're going to elevate you now. So you stepped on us, and now we're going to elevate, and as you said, for what? What do you get? Because if the math and the calculation is, well, we're doing this now to give him this now so we could get things later, that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. You already showed him that you're willing to do whatever he says for nothing. So why would he give you something now later? So it's absolutely backwards. It was a slap in the face. Again, gaslighting, and people in our communities, in our neighborhoods. Look, I appreciate you saying that you are a truth teller. We are taking the same approach. We are speaking truth to power. We don't care who it offends because it's actually the absolute truth. And the absolute truth is this was a horrible, horrible, horrible event that took place over last week and over the last 3 weeks. There was a political harm done to our people, and now the Black Caucus, the California Legislative Black Caucus, is elevating part of the people and some of the people, specifically our Governor Gavin Newsom, who helped commit that harm. We deserve better political representation.
I don't know. I assume they do because they are at some level sophisticated because they're members of the California Assembly and the Senate. Not trying to demonize anybody. They were smart enough to get elected. So I can imagine that every one of their comms person, we call it comms person, their person who runs their communications team, I'm sure all their comms people are reading all the headlines, or should be, that came out of this story. If the comms people for the members of the California Legislative Black Caucus are doing their job, they're reading every headline, and they are seeing today and over the weekend the same things that I'm seeing, same things that Chris Lodgson is seeing. You have to look, and I've gotten phone calls all across the country in advance of today's show. You have to look, as Chris said brilliantly a moment ago, at the headlines in these papers, in these stories written all across the country. When you read the headline, and you see the photo, that cannot be the story that these Negroes imagined. That cannot be the story that advances the cause of meaningful reparations. The headline and the photo of all these black people standing behind Governor Gavin Newsom tells the exact wrong story. It's the exact opposite of the narrative that you want to advance. This is politics 101, and they failed the course. They failed miserably on this, because that is the way this story is being written. It's the way the story is being read across the country, and to some extent, Gavin Newsom once again comes across as the white man, the white savior. He's bold, he's pragmatic, he apologized for slavery, etc., etc. That's the frame that they've created, and I don't know that they got it then. And sadly, with all these headlines all across the country today, I still don't know if they get that that is not the narrative you want to write.
No, it's not. It's not. And it actually hurts your cause. It hurts what we're trying to do. And I always try to bring it back to the people. I always taught, get close to the people, stay close to the people. So I'm thinking about our people who are unhoused. I'm thinking about our people who are in the federal and the state prison systems. I'm thinking about our people who are just trying to make it day to day, like the people listening to this right now, and people trying to take care of their families and they kids who are owed and due reparations. We need action. We need real, tangible, material change in our people's lives, and this does not help get us there. And we need it like yesterday. And so to this, well, we got to start here, and then we got to, take more time, and then we're going to take 2-3 years to help through education, and then we're going to take more. No, we need action now. And like I said, this is not a step forward. It's not a first step. It's actually a step backwards, and we deserve better. And this is, as you said, for the comms people, for the people who have been doing this. I kind of think that some of this, what we saw last week, is a reaction to some of the negative press that they've probably been seeing over the past several weeks. And so maybe they thought, well, let's do a signing ceremony, let's get some positive quote unquote headlines out there. But this is actually backfired. And so this is another misstep, even after the missteps that we've seen over the past 3 or so weeks.
I've got 2 minutes left here. What for the people to whom this matters, for the people who feel like they were sold out by their black electeds here in the state of California, what happens next, Chris?
So a few things happen next. So one, right now, we need folks out there who are listening who are in CLBC member districts to reach out to the CLBC members, go to their town halls, go to their community meetings, go to their offices, call their offices, email their offices, and let them know that you do not like what they've done and you do not like what they are doing. I think that's part of the first steps that are happening next and now. I think ultimately, though, we need new representation. We need new elected leaders. I think there's no way around that. Some folks told me, well, let's give them another chance. Listen, we don't accept or tolerate people playing with our ancestors' inheritance. This is not a game for us. We've been working on this since 2018, 2019. This is very serious to us. Very, very, very serious to us. And so right now is the time for bold, clear, direct, honest, transformative leadership. I'm not sure that these are the people who are going to get us to where we got to go. So we need new people in most, or at least some of these elected black caucus offices.
When you were last on this program, I raised the issue then, and all kind of hell broke loose, and I didn't apologize then, not apologizing now. But I did raise the question of whether or not these persons ought to be primaried. For those who are not termed out, whether or not they ought to be primaried. At some point, they have to get the message. This was a major meltdown, a major mistake. And rather than apologizing for it, they keep trying to spin it. They keep trying to reframe it. And now they're in this frame of this photo with Gavin Newsom. They just don't get it. The one thing I know that gets it, I've learned this in my career, if you hit folk in their pocket, they get the message, number one. And number two, if you primary them, run somebody against them, they really get the message if they're into politics. So we shall see what happens in the days ahead. But this is a sad moment. It's a sad moment. And the picture and the headlines all across the country belie the true feelings of everyday black people in this state. I digress for now. More later. Chris Lodgson, thank you for your work and witness. Good to have you back on this program, sir.
Thank you, sir.
More Tavis, Smiley when we come forward.
Well, this is Big C Sports. I love playing the complete interview with Tavis Smiley Show with Chris Lodgson's Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. That's more important to me than who won a game. When you look at all the games and the sports that we're playing in this country, from football to basketball to baseball, hardly any of these teams have African-American ownership. Magic Johnson is a co-owner or minority owner of the Washington Commanders. That's it. So when people say, well, let's watch games, a lot of these owners, they got money from homestead money. They got money from ancestors that owned slaves. The Homestead Act that gave white people 160 acres of land. A lot of those people went on to get ownership in property, in business. And then the Jim Crow, there's just so much that went against us. And for Gavin Newsom, California Governor Gavin Newsom, and to have African Americans sitting around him saying, I'm going to rob your assets! And they clap him for it. Don't make any sense to me. Call a spade a spade. Don't let people pretend that they're on your side. Decent people, irrespective of what color. They know that reparations are due. No need going into church praying to God to bring you into heaven when you sit around here and you create the hell for people. All you have to do is pass the bills. Again, Senate Bill 1050 had passed with a 72-0 vote. And he turned it down with his own white hand and the own pen. I want to say with Big C Sports Podcast, yeah, I'm different. I don't want to be like everybody else. I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We should all have more laughter and transparency in our lives. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I do the storytelling. I even do the play-by-play. 1st and 10, 50-yard line. Aaron Rodgers under center. 4 wideouts, 5 men front. By their Broncos, the snap rolling to his right, rolling, throws downfield. The ball is incomplete. Rodgers did not have a good game in the Meadowlands versus the Denver Broncos, and they ended up losing the game. All fan love and war. But I also do what I love with Big C Sports Podcast. The show's uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City. It's streaming on 4 TV platforms like Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Number 10, I never missed a show. And now we got people who miss practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about practice. Now we got people who miss practice. I do want to say what I don't want to miss is I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then California governor said, well, God, I'm gonna pretend I'm gonna sign reparations, and then I'm gonna snatch it from under their feet, because that's how we've treated black people all our lives in this country. But please vote for me. Please vote for me. What a joke. Never vote for your butt. Need a new governor in California, one that has character. I want to say thank you to the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. If you know anybody going through issues, like some of the trauma created over being hoodwinked for reparations, black Americans voted and fought in every war this country's had. Black Americans were fighting for this country during the Civil War. At the end of the Civil War, got 100 years of Jim Crow. Did not get the homestead money and the land, did not get the GI Bill. And then we have a governor in Gavin Newsom in California that pretends he's for all the people, in the make of Martin Luther King Jr.? And he lied. Apologize for what? 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. And it's so good when somebody's leaning back. I want to see, I have a commercial that I want to do, because a lot of it is so necessary when it comes to protecting your assets. You got to have some asset protection. They needed it for the football games this weekend. And they got a football games going on tonight with Tennessee and Miami. And also another game that's being played, Seattle at Detroit. Man, two good programs going at it in Detroit tonight at Ford Field. At the same time, I want to say I have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth and resource development consulting, Inc., in conjunction with the law offices of Attorney Scott Thibodeau and Attorney George Jones, Esquire. The Missing Link, long-term care solutions by the book. Over 3 decades of experience helping seniors to get their benefits, Medicare and You, and taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. In other parts of the country, it's called Medicaid. Your family and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs. You can find out your options, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, where you reach out to them, tell them Big C sent you. Our promise to you, to specialize and navigate to maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without the spend down. Is that Aflac, BC? No, Aflac's the duck. That's gap insurance. A duck can't protect his own assets. That's why you can order one at a restaurant menu, if that makes sense to you. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by our staff of entitlement specialists, ongoing consultants to provide updates as necessary, benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medications, medical equipment costs, and more. But not only that, protection of your assets, which is what California Governor Gavin Newsom did not do for African Americans. But he put together the task force, and he pretended like he was going to do it because it's the right thing to do, and it would please God. But he chose to please somebody else. He hoodwinked you. Remember that, African Americans and decent white people too. That boy was about to be recalled in California. You know who saved his butt? Black people did. You know who he screwed? African Americans. And he knows it's true. You gotta have someone who's willing to protect your assets, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family, avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program called probate. You better believe if you don't have a will and a trust, at the end of life, you will go to probate. It can last between 2 years or more. And the state, the probate courts, they love when you don't have a will and a trust. In fact, I was talking to some good old boys, some attorneys. They said, hey, Curry, hey, Big C. I said, yeah. They said, would you believe that 7 out of 10 Americans do not have a will and a trust? I said, oh, you must be out of your mind. They said, no, seriously. 7 out of 10 Americans do not have a will and a trust. If you ask 10 people, you'll find that 7 do not have a will and a trust, but they have cable TV. That's a fact. You gotta have a will and a trust that protects your assets. A one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. But not only that, I'm not done yet. I said I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. A trust protects the insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care, avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance, pre-planning and avoid the look-back period. What about fixed assets, BC? Does the trust protect that? Yes, it sure does. It protects your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, your money market accounts, your certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, your fixed index annuities. What about variable assets, BC? Does the trust protect that? I'm glad you asked. Yes, it does. It protects your real estate, your qualified money, IRAs, 401ks, and other investments. For example, avoid capital gains. Let's say you buy a house for $100,000, and 1 year later that house appreciates to $1 million. Well, that's a $900,000 capital gains. You avoid that with a trust. You You avoid that with a trust. Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Attention business owners. You got to find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. Well, Big C, I got a friend that he does trust. Why would we use the RDC team with the Big C team? I got to tell you, because we have references. Did your friend have references? Well, the RDC team, we have references, and you can Google it. The late James Gomez, who advised 4 California governors who led change in California's nursing homes. He also was the CEO of the California Association of Health Facilities, and he also served on Golden One's board of directors for 21 years. But not only that, the late Robert Carlson, top legal counsel for CalPERS, one of the largest employers in California. But not only that, we have George Jones, the chair of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, also the chair of the California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. We have attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top estate planners in Northern California. But not only that, we have Mr. Leon Woods, works with many of the top lobbyists in California. But not only that, we have Mrs. Cheryl Brown. Now, she's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. She endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. Alex De La Cruz. He's the founder of American Veteran Benefits. But not only that, Mr. Ray De La Cruz, who's the owner and the CEO of Resource Development Consulting, been doing this thing over 34 years and counting. But not only that, we have Big C, Charlton Curry, co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project. But not only that, business development director for the RDC team. But not only that, it has its own Big C Sports Podcast, the #1 sports show in the universe. But not only that, we have Below, the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. But not only that, business development consultant for the RDC team. But not only that, has its own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. You can Google it on accesssacramento.org or KUBU 96.5 FM or eatprivate.net. You got to give that some praise. I said you got to give that some praise. Give it praise, praise, praise. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You know, I love what I do with Big C Sports Podcast because I love paying homage to people who are doing the right thing for people, and it's not just me. I got NFL football. You know, we all know who won the games, and I'll get into that also. But I want to make sure there's something that I'm working on that's near and dear to my heart. It's so important. Working on the National Black Wall Street Project School and Economic Preparatory Individual Education for Economic Initiative Handbook, Table of Contents, Contact Information, National Black Wall Street School, and National Black Wall Street Mission and Student Learning Outcomes. This is important as more than who won a game. School contracts and schedules. Dear students, it is our pleasure to welcome you to the National Black Wall Street School and Economic Preparatory for the school year of 2024-2025. We at the National Black Wall Street Project School are dedicated to providing you with the best possible education in a diversified economic environment. Your support of the policies and adherences to the procedures ensure the smooth and effective school functions. The cooperation of home and school is one of the major tenets of the success of you and your family's economic growth to succeed in a better way of life. The content in this handbook that's going to be announced very soon includes rules and procedures for both you and your family. Please read it thoroughly. Revise it with your family and use it as a reference throughout the years. Since the handbook is an official document that is located on the packet forms, to confirm that you received and read this document, please utilize the school calendar, which serves as a source of information regarding all minimum days, breaks, and teacher and service days. The school reserves the right to make changes or amend any policies and procedures outlined in this handbook. This is being worked on right now, and not only that, it's going to be available for every school and university throughout the state of California to spread throughout the country. So I'm looking forward to a lot of great things, the National Black Wall Street School and Economic Preparatory Student Learning Outcomes. The goal is to provide a nurturing and stimulating environment where students will attain both a strong resource development consulting identity and solid academic skills, which will enable them to become successful adults living to serve the community, encouraged to read, and the understanding the mission and student school-wide learning outcomes. These documents are the guiding principles on which policies and procedures are created and implemented. These principles shall be integrated into many facets of student learning experiences, including classroom activities and school-wide events and projects. You got to understand that it's near and dear to my heart, mind, body, and soul that the National Black Wall Street School preparatory mission statement, the school is committed to providing an educational environment that inspires men and women to strive for academic, personal, and economic excellence, nurtures in students the skills and talents necessary to make positive contributions to global society by offering a comprehensive curriculum that promotes economic solutions by using the government Medicare and Medicaid California Department of Aging and Taking Care of Tomorrow books known as The Missing Link, authored by Ray De La Cruz, also the CEO of Resource Development Consulting, and Charlton Curry of Big C Sports Podcast Corporations. And also, I have other people that'll be a part of this as well. Reverend Tony Pierce, who is the CEO of National Black Wall Street Project. Double O, Omalaro Dolphin, who's also a pre-op committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. And Brother Aleem Shabazz, who's also part of the co-chair of the Sacramento branch of the California Black Wall Street Project. It's important to me. It's a work in progress, and it's gonna get done, and it's more important than who won the game because it's creating opportunities. When I said that Big C Sports Podcast is the #1 sports show in the universe, I'm not talking about shucking and jiving. I'm talking about things that have meat on the bone. So not only that do we have meat on the bone, I want to make sure that when you listen to Big C Sports Podcast, you have an action plan, especially these colleges and universities, where you have an opportunity to start a career where you can be the boss, the master of your own fate. And I love being a part of that with the RDC team and the Big C team. You got to give that some praise. I said give that some praise, praise, praise. It's more than touchdown. Home run, 3-point play. Oh, man, Willie, he's going all the way. It's more than that. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. We got NFL football and college football. I'll get into that tomorrow, but you already know who won the game. The team that scored the most points is the team that won the game. But you got to score more points in your life, dude. I want to make sure I do that. Well, as I always tell you on every Big C Sports Podcast, I'm not your great-granddaddy sports show. I'm not your great-granddaddy sports show. But I do want to tell you this. I thank God for everything that's good in my life. I want to say, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad. And fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber. You can call Lyft. You can walk it off. You can sleep it off. But don't let someone you love start drinking and get behind the wheel of a car and start driving. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone who loves you, or someone that's loved by somebody else. Don't do it. If someone's going to drink and drive, just look at them and say, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" You don't have to do it. Take away the keys. Live to see another day. Well, that's my story. I'm taking with it. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know anybody going through that garbage, you need more LEADA in your life. What's LEADA, Big C? LEADA is an acronym for love is the answer. Because if someone loves you, they don't hit you. I only hit you because you made me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't beat you. I only beat you because you made me mad. Pick up the phone or call 911. If someone loves you, they don't choke you out. I only choke you out because you made me mad. Pick up the phone and call 911. No man, woman, or child should ever go through that crap. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And that should be your story too. Well, as I always say, I love paying homage to my beautiful family on my mother's side, my great-grandparents, mama and pop. Beautiful, loving, kind people, always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly. In fact, coming in from the backyard playing like a lot of boys do, all dirty and sweaty, going right to the refrigerator and saying, "Great grandma, I want some more collard greens and some ribs." She said, "Okay, baby, go wash your hands. You can have some collard greens and some ribs." "I don't have time to wash my hands. I'm hungry now." She said, "Baby, go wash your hands if you want something to eat." "I told you, great grandma, I'm too hungry to wash my hands." She said, "You wash your hands in this house." And then we had to wash our hands before we could eat. But she always let us eat. I love my great-grandmother, a wonderful, wonderful woman. And then my great-grandfather, Pop, from a military man and from a Negro League baseball player. He did not get the Homestead Act. He did not get the GI Bill, but he loved this country and fought for this country. Could fix anything with his hands and with his mind. Love my great-grandfather. All fair and loving were. Then my beautiful grandparents, Monday and Hezekiah. Beautiful, loving people. They were seers. They could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. And they still help me to this day. And then I could always depend on my mama. The most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and also coached an all-boys Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. The best person I ever met in my life, always saying rise and shine. Dear mama, you know I've been praising and praising and praising. I deserve it, mama. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. I keep giving God praise. I keep giving God praise. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. On my father's side, my grandparents, Albert and Alberta Curry, they were pastors. They had 3 churches. They owned 2 gas stations, and they also owned 40 acres of land. The Homestead Act gave white Americans 160 acres of land, even white Europeans. And they have Governor Gavin Newsom to say, I'm not signing reparations now. And the white people already got reparations called the Homestead Act, and all that money and wealth from slavery, stealing all of our ancestors' money. The same land that had slaves is still here. The same country that sanctioned slavery is still here. How dare you say, well, we're going to issue an apology. Apology for what? What you didn't do, you should apologize. My beautiful grandmother, I was 8 years old walking through the hallway about 10 o'clock at night in Oakland. I felt somebody touch me in my forehead. She said, what are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies? I said, what are you doing, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, what are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies? I said, cookies are baby crap. That's what I'm doing, Grandma. I'm going to get my reparations. But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt. It's been a long wait. She said, there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. And now Big C Sports Podcast is streaming on 29 podcast platforms and 4 TV platforms. Love my grandparents with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night, always saying develop your mind to its highest extent. I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice. Sound like thunder and lightning when Tavis speak. A voracious reader. Always saying go forward. In fact, he would say go forward. Don't look back because you don't have much backside to do. Anyway, I said I love my backside, Todd. He said I needed to do more squats so I could have a bigger backside, like a cartoon character. But you know, I've been doing more squats and I am getting a bigger backside. The natural way through squats. Todd and I, we love Malcolm X, but we also love the movie Pulp Fiction. And it felt like what Gavin Newsom did to African Americans. Wim Baines, Bruce Willis, Sam Jackson, and John Travolta. It's like Bruce Willis, before the big fight, Ben Rames said, come here, boy, sit your butt down. He said, your butt goes down in the 5th round. I'm going to give you this bag of money. Say that, flip. He said, okay, my butt goes down in the 5th round. He said, that stinging sensation you're feeling, well, that's just pride. Flipping with you. And he said what California Governor Gavin Newsom said to all the black people that voted for him, and the decent white people do. He said, blood pride. He said, pride only hurts. It never helps. He says politics filled with a lot of unrealistic muddly buckers who think that butt gets better with time like fine wine, but it don't. In terms of vinegar, then it do. He said someday you're going to thank Uncle Marcellus. When you're chilling in the Caribbean, you're going to say Uncle Marcellus is right. Well, we know he didn't take the dive, and he lost his L.A. privileges. That's my story. I'm taking with it. I love Todd with all my heart, my body, and soul. My beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate with 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast back at Salem Media. It became the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. They had never done that before. They normally go to ESPN, but because of Big C and the crew, they came to the Wall Street Business Network. But you know, shenanigans set in the show wouldn't wait, but I'm still standing. Daisy, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17. I pray that no weapon formed against you will prosper. One day, and Daisy scored 6 goals in a soccer game. Left-footed, and she's a right-footed kicker. It was like this. Daisy with a kick, Daisy with a goal, 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 goal! And the team won the game. Daisy, I love you with all my heart, my body, so always trust God. Always trust God. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, erudite, a good man. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. One day, Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper and look up stats for players and teams for Big C Sports Podcast. And one day, Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. Now on 29 podcast platforms. One day, Malcolm said, Dad, do you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. Well, that's before it was even on the air. Now streaming on 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And then, Malcolm, you can be anything you want. Just trust God. Always pray. Always pray, pray, pray. You can be anything you want to be. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, that my great-grandparents coming out of that barn with their church buddies always saying, you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. Say, let's get ready to rumble. I love to say, welcome to the show. As we nominated Big C Sports Podcast, I have no scripts. I have no 3-way teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. All I have is this gland in the brain. It's called the pineal gland. The ancients call it the third eye. They say that's how you talk to God. And that's why I scream so loud, because I want God to hear. God, just do it. I deserve it. You know my prayers. You know my praise. I thank you, Lord. I thank you. Matthew 7:7. Ephesians 3:20. Issachar moment. You know it. An Issachar moment. I thank you, God. Love you with all my heart, my body, and soul. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I love always giving praise to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and President Abraham Lincoln. But first, I'm going to honor Muhammad Ali, the greatest fighter ever. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations now, reparations forever. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And now I'll praise Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and America's 16th President, Abraham Lincoln. You may hear their names and the vice presidential debate coming up. What do they say? What do we want? Reparations. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Reparations. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Reparations. When do we want it? Now. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day.
Looking for a unique point of view on pro sports game analysis? Then tune in to Big C Sports Podcast on iHeartRadio. Get real sports talk worldwide. Miss a live episode? Replay it on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Join Big C, former NFL player and longtime award-winning radio broadcaster, covering all sports including NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, NCAA, USL, and more. Tune in live or on demand on iHeartRadio Podcast today.